All right, let's try a problem. We know that two binomials will give me a trinomial when you multiply those two binomials through the FOIL method. Now, if you remember, in the FOIL method, it said do the first term, and that's this term right here, the x squared term. That's going to give us x times x. X times x gives you x squared. We know that when we do the FOIL method. Now the signs. The signs are going to be easy. In the linear term, this term right here, the linear term, you look at the sign, it's a negative, so I'm going to put it right here. The next sign that goes here is the product of the linear and the constant. So negative times negative is positive, and that always works. Now we need to find the term for the binomials. Well, if we take 21 and think about two numbers that make 21, well, 7 and 3, when you multiply that, gives you 21. And also 21 times 1 also gives you 21. These sets of numbers, one of these sets, go in here into our binomial. Well, because this is guessing, this is kind of like trial and error, I'm just going to pop in the 7 in here, and I'm going to pop in the 3 in here and see if it works. You could do the FOIL if you wanted to, and that's, up to you. But, you can do some mental work and then some writing work. And I'll tell you what I mean right now. For example, x times x gives you x squared, so that's not going to be a problem. Negative 7 times 3 is going to give you negative 21. So that's not a problem. We're only worried about the middle term here. Well, let's see. Negative 7 times x gives you negative 7x. And x times 3 gives you 3x. And when you add that, it gives you negative 4x, which is the middle term. So x take away 7 times x plus 3 are the two factors, or the two binomials that make this trinomial. All right, let's try the next one. Here we have, again, a trinomial, so we're going to write out two binomials. We notice that the first term of our trinomial is x squared, so I'm going to write x and x over here. That's not going to be a problem. And then the next thing we notice is the signs. Well, the linear term has a negative, the coefficient over here with a 12, so we'll put a negative. The next sign I'm going to put over here is the product of the linear term and the constant. So that's negative times positive is going to be negative. Great. Now let's find the other numbers. We take the constant, which is 35. We think of two numbers that will give me 35. Well, that's 7 times 5. And also 35 times 1. One of these sets will give me the correct combination. Well, we'll take 7 and 5. And what we can do is we can do the FOIL. So let's do that. X times x gives you x squared. And x times negative 5 gives you negative 5x. And negative 7 times x gives you negative 7x. And negative 7 times negative 5 gives you positive 35. These two terms are alike, so let's combine them, and we get the trinomial back. So x take away 7 times x minus 5 are the two factors that make the trinomial. So those two were easy. All right, let's try the next problem here. First, I'm going to do some simple factoring. I'm going to factor out a 2 from this trinomial. And that's going to help us in factor this trinomial because the coefficients will be smaller and we won't have that 2 to deal with in front of the x squared. All right, so I know now that I have a new trinomial and I'm going to need two binomials to do the factoring, I'm going to keep the 2 outside. I know that x times x will give me x squared, and I need to know what the signs are going to be here. Well, one's going to be plus, because that's the sign of the linear term, and then the next sign is going to be the product of the linear and the constant. So plus times plus is plus. So now I need the numbers that go in here in these slots. Well, 15. Two numbers will give me 15 when I multiply those two numbers is 3 and 5, and also 15 and 1. So 3 and 5, I'm going to put 3 in here, I'm going to put 5 in here, and we could do the FOIL if we wanted to, or without the 2, or we can just mentally look at this for certain parts, like x times x gives me x squared, 3 times 5 gives me 15. Now the middle term, how do we do that? Well, that's 3 times x gives me 3x, and x times 5 is 5x. That gives me, when I add, 8x, which is the middle term here. Great. So now I know my factors are 2, x plus 3, and x plus 5. Now, in some books, they're going to want this 2 integrated into one of these two binomials. So what we can do is take this 2 and multiply it with the x here in the 3. That's going to give me 2x plus 6 times x plus 5. So that's one way that you can find the answer. Or 2x plus 5, x plus 3. I'm just going to take this binomial and put it in the front. And I'm going to multiply this 2 out. You only multiply this 2 out only on one binomial. And this will be 2x plus 10 and x plus 3. You'll notice that if you do the FOIL on the first set of binomials or the FOIL on this set of binomials, you get the same answer. So either one will be correct.